Amazing Defenders releases on January 20th. While all three of these archetypes mostly failed to see much success in an OCG meta still overrun with Tearlament, the fact of the matter is that this game isn't always about what tops, it's about the Mets, baby. Here's everything you need to know about the Mets. Love the Mets. Rescue Ace Hydrant can search a Rescue Ace monster once per turn and lets you activate one Rescue Ace trap or quick play spell after setting it with a Rescue Ace effect. Impulse can make a monster unable to activate its effects, and in response to an opponent's monster effect, contribute itself from hand or field to summon a Rescue Ace from deck. Airlifter searches a spell on summon and tributes itself to summon from hand, and Monitor fetches a trap and summons from graveyard. Fire Attacker and Fire Engine summon themselves from hand if another ace is summoned. Attacker can draw 2 and discard 1 if your opponent searches, and Engine can summon an ace if your opponent special summons. Turbulence can banish a light and a dark, banish 2 Rescue Ace cards to summon itself, pops a card if your opponent's effect removes one of your cards, and during your turn can set 4 different Rescue Ace back row from deck. Rescue is Reborn. Alert is Reincarnation, or Rhoda if you control Hydrant. Contain is Imperm, or fucking Warning Point if you have Hydrant. And Extinguish pops an effect monster and prohibits it for the turn if you have Hydrant on field. Finally, HQ gives you an extra normal and can shuffle back 4 from graveyard to draw 1. There's a lot of fun ideas here that I can appreciate. The way their effects mirror back your opponent moves at them, popping a card when they pop yours, summoning when they summon, all leads to a very distinct playstyle. Turbulence setting 4 every turn is incredible for tempo, giving you up to 4 points of interaction each turn on its own, and the low-level monsters being hand traps gives you the ability to start establishing board presence before your first turn has even begun, quite similar to another deck in the game right now with in-engine turn 0 interaction. Just one small issue, the monsters don't do shit. The monsters in this deck seem to have formed some sort of feedback loop in which they all deflect the responsibility of being useful onto one another until you run out of steam and end on nothing. Fire Attacker just cycles some draws, and Engine just summons another guy. Turbulence can pop a card, but only if your opponent tries removing something else you control before outing Turbulence, which, I mean, yes, haha, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't read, but they are legally allowed to. Nothing is actually going to stop them from taking one look at Turbulence and going, I should probably get rid of this. And that's not even to mention the fact that each hand trap only summons one Rescue Ace, and only one of them summons from deck. So the odds you'll be able to put up multiple monsters your opponent will see as a threat are essentially none, since we've already established that the other ones aren't threatening at all. At the very least, if you do get a turn to play, the deck has a few combos like Hydrant plus Lifter that at least get you to Masquerena plus Turbulence for a theoretical 4-ish interruptions. But folks, don't you want to leave Masquerena pass in 2022? Can't we move forward onto bigger and better things in the new year? Just a thought. I guess I should at least throw out some deck building tips so I don't get a 12th archetype fanbase mad at me. Gizmek Naganaki summons Hydrant from deck. These things are Fire Warriors. No, that's all I got. Hare, the Sword Mikonko, is a level 3 Fire Warrior that can't be destroyed by battle while it has an equip card, and deals any battle damage you would take back to your opponent instead. Also, when it becomes equipped, you get to search a Mikonko equip spell. Nini has the same battle and damage protection effect, and while it's equipped, it can take control of an opponent's monster as a quick effect. Ohime has battle protection and reflects battle damage, can reveal itself from hand to search a Mikonko, then discard a card, and as a quick effect can equip any equip spell from graveyard to a monster on field. Kagura is a ritual spell with the additional effect to destroy a card your opponent controls for each equipped spell in your graveyard. Ceremony summons any Mikonko from hand and can banish itself to mill a Mikonko card. Purification Dance protects from card effects, and if your opponent special summons, you can bounce a monster on each side of the field. Arabesque summons a Mikonko from hand or deck, equips to the monster it summoned, then bounces the monster it was previously equipped to. Fire Dance is Prem, and Reflection Rondo is Snatch Steal. Mikonko Promise summons a Mikonko from hand or deck, then can equip it with an equip spell from hand or graveyard, and Rivalry targets a monster on the field and equips it with an equip spell from deck. There is a lot going on in this archetype, in a good way. There's actually a fair amount of disruption within Engine in ways that are actually somewhat splashable. Just drawing Ohime gets you access to a bounce or a Snatch Steal, since it can search Ceremony, which cheats the ritual out and mills the equip spell of your choice. Speaking of which, these cards also improve the deck's synergy with the Illusion of Chaos Engine, as most of the equip spells are more useful in the graveyard, where you can target them with Ohime, and Magician's Souls is a decent way to get them there. There's also a very solid way to one-shot your opponent by equipping Double-Edged Sword to any monster they control with 2,000 or more attack, running into it with Ohime, and causing them to take 4,000 damage twice. In the OCG, this deck actually saw some play in concert with Bystials. All the Heralds and DM stuff are light and dark, so you can banish them for Magnamut and overlay that with a level 6 Diviner or Ohime to make Wallow to end on 2 forms of Graveyard Disruption. Wonder where that's relevant. Alongside your Mikonko effects. Ending on some very creative, colorful boards of varied disruptions that aren't just negates. Or you end on Snatch Steal Pass. Meanwhile, in the TCG, a lot of talk has gone on about the potential for splashing the engine into our exclusive ritual deck, Libromancer, to make an explosive ritual combo deck with a wide array of different forms of disruption. Purrely is, oh my gosh, look at the little guy! Purrely is a level 1 light fairy that dualities for a Purrely spell trap on summon, because he's such a good boy, who's a good boy, and can reveal a Purrely quick play from hand to Xyz summon the Purrely Xyz that mentions that spell, and then attach it from hand. All the quick plays do a thing, then can discard a card to summon a Purrely monster from deck. Happy Memory gives, look at him, he's so happy, he's gonna get the ball! A monster you control, a one-time protection from card effect destruction for the turn. Pretty Memory gives each player 1,000 life points, and Delicious Memory gives a monster battle protection. They also grant effects to monsters they're attached to. Happy gives it multiple attacks, Pretty lets you send a card you control to the graveyard to attach an opponent's card, and Delicious gives it 300 attack and defense for each material it has. My Friend Purrely can reveal 3 Purrely cards from deck and randomly adds 1 to your hand, and if your opponent removes your Purrely Xyz monster, you get to add back 3 Purrely quick plays from graveyard. Stray Purrely Streak gives your Purrelys targeting protection during the turn they're summoned, summons a Purrely from deck or graveyard if your Xyz is outed, and can attach a Purrely quick play from deck to one of your Purrely Xyz monsters during end phase. Leap ranks your Purrely Xyz monster up or down and can banish itself from graveyard to shuffle up to 3 Purrelys from graveyard into your deck. Purrely Happiness searches at the end of the damage step and halves the attack of an opponent's monster if it has Happy Memory attached, and can chain to a Purrely quick play to attach that card to itself and bounce an opponent's spell or trap. Beauty can negate an opponent's monster, which is a quick effect if Pretty Memory is attached, and can chain to a Purrely quick play to attach it and change an opponent's monster's battle position. Plump, estoy muy gordo, señor Chonko. Esta noche servimos pollo. La cuenta, por favor. That's a reference 2 people on the planet understand. And I'm one of them. Plump can attach 2 spell or traps from graveyard to itself, quick effect if it has Delicious, and it can chain to a quick play to attach it and forfeit an opponent's monster. Purrely Happiness can be made on top of any rank 2 with 5 or more materials, can detach a material to negate the effects of all your opponent's monsters, which they can't respond to if a level 1 Purrely is attached, and when it attacks you can inflict 1500 burn damage to your opponent. Purrely Noir has the same summoning condition, is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects while it has 5 or more materials, and can detach 2 to spin a card from your opponent's field or graveyard to the bottom of their deck, as a quick effect if it has a level 1 Purrely attached. This archetype has a lot of potential for success, but is held back by some intrinsic consistency issues. You see, you want to make Noir as often as possible to use its 3 quick effect spins, but the only way to do that turn 1 is to use both of Plump's effects to attach 2 spells to it from grave and then 1 of your quick plays from field, which means you have to open Delicious, 2 other Purrely quick plays, and an additional spell or trap to discard with 1 of them. So scratch that, we're not making that happen. So what about Plump? All the Purrely's second effects are thrice per turn, meaning Plump can disrupt spell traps in graveyard and banish up to 3 monsters. But to do that, you need to have 3 Purrely quick plays set, so now you need to find at least a way to summon Purrely, a Delicious, and an additional Purrely quick play just to get even 1 banish. The duality effect can help, but can also miss even with 12 good hits in deck, so it's still a lot of RNG legwork you're going through to maybe get a single banish. Okay, so what about Beauty? An Imperm sounds good enough. One little thing though, Pretty Memory is the only Purrely quick play you can activate without a monster on board, since the other 2 need to apply an effect to a monster on the field, making Pretty the most versatile one to use as a starter to summon Purrely from deck. So if you don't draw a monster, you need to draw 2 Pretty to end on Beauty. These are, and I don't use this term lightly, absurdly specific issues. The type of things you can't really understand until you've played 100 hands of this deck. And a large number of them go away if you go second, which I can never recommend from a moral standpoint, but admittedly seems to be what they're subtly trying to push for in this deck, and honestly all 3 of these decks. All of them have this weird sense to them that Konami maybe wanted them to blind second, but knew that going second is a dying art, so they also tried giving them half-assed going first plans that are all inconsistent and not very strong, which results in them not really excelling at either. Happiness is good at making Zeus, but you have to resolve so many effects to get to Happiness that your opponent can just stop you from playing well before you get there. There is hope on the horizon with new support coming in Cyberstorm Access, and even without it, the deck can be a fun control strat, as proven by this one list from the OCG that includes Blue Boy.
Son of a bitch, you're still alive.
Guess the reprints are gonna have to carry the set. They didn't reprint anything. 2 Infernoble cards that were over $10 and then random doodads and whatnots. You know what's really gonna sell this set? Overlay regen at Super. If I open a pack and my one holo is overlay regen, I'm returning it. I'm gluing the pack back together and I'm getting my money back. Fuck it. Where's the collector's rare overlay regen? Why no Starlight overlay regen? I am not pressed about overlay regen. You're pressed! You know what, Konami? I respect it. You collected all the mid you could assemble and put it all in the first set of the year so you could only go up from here. 2023 is going to be the year of nothing but peak. No Mickey in sight from now on. We're getting Kashtira. We're getting Ash Dragon. They're going to make deck traps. They're going to make ass traps. Branded Season 2 is coming. Is it going to be dual terminal again? Probably. But most importantly, we're going to have the Mets, baby. Love the Mets. Do it all for the Mets. She said, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love the Mets and my mama, I'm sorry.